let's cut the nonsense. If you want to win your fantasy league in 2025, you cannot afford to miss these 5 names. I'm talking about breakout wide receivers, comeback running backs, post-hype values, and a handcuff who might just win you the entire thing. We're breaking down the numbers, the narratives, and the upside that could swing your 2025 fantasy season. Let's get into it. Let's kick this off with a name that's about to be a household fantasy staple and a potential second-year breakout, Malik Nabers. Here's what people miss about 2024. Nabers didn't just look good for a rookie, he looked elite under atrocious conditions. Let's set the scene. He had 170 targets in just 15 games, second in the NFL only to Jamar Chase. But while Chase had Joe Burrow, Nabers had the QB carousel from hell. Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito. That's like running a Ferrari on lawnmower fuel. Despite that, Nabers led all wide receivers in target share, showing us he wasn't just part of the offense, he was the offense. Now let's talk about what makes him close to QB proof. Elite separation. He was above average on every route but 2 last year. Success rate versus man, 75%. Versus press, 77%. Versus zone, 80%. This is veteran elite tier route running here. And even when the ball wasn't perfectly thrown, which was often in 2024, Nabers still dominated in contested situations. He had a 73% contested catch rate, top 5 in the NFL. He also had the 11th most yards after the catch, and he did it with the 68th lowest ADOT. So he wasn't being targeted deep, wasn't given time to separate, and still made magic happen. Now he gets either Russell Wilson, who was 4th in accuracy last year and 2nd in deep ball completion, Jameis Winston, who's got a cannon and is never afraid to throw YOLO balls, or rookie Jackson Dart, who's more mobile and aggressive than anyone Nabers played with last year. And the Giants did absolutely nothing in terms of bringing in competition for targets here, so he should once again be the leaders, if not the leader, in targets in 2025. If you're betting on the biggest potential second-year breakout wide receiver, it's got to be Malik Nabers. But if you're betting on the potential top-scoring wide receiver in fantasy and real life, I think it's also got to be Malik Nabers. That's right. I think Malik Nabers not only has a chance to have a massive second-year breakout, but he's got the potential to be the highest-scoring wide receiver in all of fantasy. If you've got a pick in the back half of your first round and Nabers is still on the board, you have to draft this guy. Now let's talk about a running back I gave up on too soon, Isaiah Pacheco. This dude broke my heart last year, but like any good fantasy manager, I'm ready to get hurt again. Let's rewind. In 2024, Pacheco had a ton of hype coming into the season, and I was one of the biggest supporters of Isaiah Pacheco. I thought he was going to be a smash. And look, he started hot, nearly 200 total yards and 16 fantasy points per game in the first 2 games. He looked like the RB1 we had all hoped for in this Chiefs offense. Then came the devastating Week 3 leg injury, and things fell off hard. He never fully bounced back and was barely a factor in the playoffs, never playing even more than 40% of the snaps and never logging more than 5 carries. Fantasy managers bailed fast, and to be honest, I was one of them. But let's pump the brakes. Here's what matters now. Pacheco enters 2025 fully healthy. It's his contract year, and the only running back the Chiefs added, well, they brought back Kareem Hunt and they signed Elijah Mitchell. When Pacheco is healthy, he's miles better than those guys. Let's not forget, he had 4.6 yards per carry and 4.9 yards per carry his first 2 years. He was coming off 44 catches in 2023. He's got elite burst and a violent running style that fits perfectly with the Chiefs' spread looks. And here's a value kicker. He's currently going around running back 28, ADP 82. You're telling me I can get the potential lead back in a Patrick Mahomes offense with 60 target upside in the 7th or 8th round? If he stays healthy and wins back the trust of the coaching staff, you're looking at RB2 floor with RB1 upside sprinkled in. So while I wasn't really on Pacheco much to start this offseason, I'm starting to come around to the fact that Isaiah Pacheco can be a massive post-hype sleeper in 2025. And at his current ADP, I'm going to take as many chances on him as I can, just in case he does become the Chiefs' RB1 once again. Don't call it a comeback. Let's call it a bounce back. And I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey. Because if we're being honest, 2024 wasn't a down year. It was a lost year. Battled Achilles tendonitis and a PCL strain. But still, in the 3 games he did play when he was fully healthy, he logged 88%, 93%, and 81% of the snaps. He also had 13 receptions in those 3 games and went over 100 total yards in 2 of them. And that was while dealing with Achilles tendonitis. Now, he's reportedly fully healthy. He has taken all first-team reps at minicamp, and Kyle Shanahan already said if he's good to go, there's no limitations. And this is a guy in every fully healthy season of his career has finished as a top 2 running back. He's one of, if not the best pass-catching back in the entire NFL. His red zone usage is elite, and he rarely comes off the field. The 49ers offense fell apart last year because of injuries across the board. mainly Christian McCaffrey's. But when this unit is healthy, it's still one of the best offenses in the NFL, and Christian McCaffrey's ceiling is still nuclear. And yes, he's back going in the first round of drafts. The days of getting him in the second round are unfortunately over. But there aren't many running backs that have the kind of upside that Christian McCaffrey has that you don't have to take with a top 5 pick. If you want elite floor, elite ceiling, and elite usage, Christian McCaffrey is still that guy. I think he's got one more elite year in him, and it's this year, and I'm willing to take a chance, even though he's now going in the first round, because I think he's got the upside to make it worth it. And if you're ready to get your fantasy football fix on and start drafting right now, you got to check out UnderdogFantasy.com. They have best ball drafts going on all off season long, including their flagship Best Ball Mania 6, which is going to make multiple millionaires in 2025. Just go to UnderdogFantasy.com, join using promo code ENDGAME, because not only is that going to get you a free pick that you can use among any sport, but also up to $1,000 in bonus cash that you can use to start drafting right now. All right, if you play in PPR leagues, and most of you do, I got a PPR monster for you that I think you have to draft in the second round. In fact, Ladd McConkey is probably my favorite second round pick in fantasy drafts right now. Sure, the 2024 totals weren't very flashy. 23rd in targets, 26th in target share, 15 fantasy points per game. Not elite, but not bad either. But let's dig a little deeper. From weeks 1 to 8, he only played over 70% of the snaps 4 times. He only averaged 6.4 targets per game and just 13 fantasy points per game. But then from weeks 9 to 17, he played over 70% of the snaps in all but one game, averaged 7.4 targets per game and 16.6 fantasy points per game. You could feel the shift. The team began trusting him more. He ran cleaner routes, found soft spots in zone, and became the go-to for short to intermediate work. And now, he's a clear wide receiver 1 in an offense with no target hogs. Look, rookie Trey Harris is solid, but he's not commanding 120 plus looks. And sure, it is a run-first offense, and that will cap the ceiling a little bit. But McConkey is shaping up to be the next Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy who lives in the slot, racks up catches, and gives you one of the highest floors every single week in your PPR league. If you play in full PPR, which I know most of you do, Ladd McConkey should be one of, if not your top target in the second round. This guy could go over 100 catches and give you a massive weekly floor that is hard to find anywhere else. And last but not least, your must-draft, late-round, potential league-winning handcuff, Trey Benson. Now, I know last year was not a great year for running back handcuffs because running backs stayed remarkably healthy, but that was probably more than an outlier than anything. I'm not betting on that happening again. And this is a running back that checks every single box. He's got size and speed, ran a 4.39 40 at 250 pounds. He averaged 5.8 yards per carry his last year at Florida State. And as a rookie last year, he averaged 5.1 yards per touch, had a 26.1% juke rate, and a 100% catch rate on 2.11 yards per route run. Translation, this isn't just a handcuff. He's a complete weapon on the ground and through the air. Now, yes, James Conner is still the starter, and somehow last year he stayed productive and healthy, but he just turned 30 years old, and 2024 was only the second time in his entire career he played more than 13 games. As soon as James Conner misses time, Trey Benson is going to step in as a 3-down back with league-winning upside. And even if Conner doesn't get hurt, I think Benson likely sees more work in 2025, especially in passing down where he's already shown incredible efficiency. So I think he's actually more than a handcuff. I think he's going to have some standalone value even when Conner is healthy. But if Conner goes down with injury or begins to struggle as he turns the clock over 30 years old, Trey Benson is poised to take on a much larger role. He's got the talent to be a league winner. He's in an offense good enough to support him as a league winner. If anything should happen to Conner, Trey Benson is going to be the late round handcuff running back that comes on in the fantasy playoffs and wins championships. And if you're ready to win a championship in 2025, you got to stick with Endgame all off season long. We got all the video content you need to dominate your draft and beyond. You can find everything in our playlist right here.